Ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. This time I'm going to be discussing about Vietnam. As I told you in the last video, it's going to be an interesting conversation. So I hope you can be patient with me as I guide you through this journey of me in Vietnam and my experience on the driving and the transportation system in Vietnam. Number one thing I want to tell you, if you're interested in going to Vietnam, Vietnam is a beautiful country to visit. I had a great experience. I love the culture. I enjoy cultural environment, and if you are looking for a place where you can enjoy cultural things, I think Hanoi, Vietnam, has a lot to provide to you, and it's a learning experience, and I think you will certainly enjoy that time in Vietnam, specifically Hanoi. Now, enough of this. Uh, you are here because you've already made the decision of going to Vietnam. So therefore, there's no need for me to be talking to you or convincing you on why you should be going to Vietnam. So now you've made a decision. You want to go to Vietnam, and you try to decide whether it's a good option for you to drive, to bring a motorcycle, or other things like this. Like when I was in Thailand, I rented a car, even though they drive similar to England, United Kingdom, on the I guess on the right side of the road compared to the United States. It was pretty easy for me to accommodate because of the driving skills or the driving experience that I had in Thailand. Now, Vietnam is very different style of driving. Okay, so take your seat just like I just did and listen carefully, and I will let you know my recommendation whether you should or you should not drive in Vietnam, specifically in Hanoi, Old Quarter, Vietnam. Okay. What kind of transportation system are available in Vietnam? Now, they do have bus. The sleeping buses. The sleeping buses was a great experience for me. I used it a couple times to travel outside the Old Quarter. When I was in Vietnam, Hanoi Old Quarter was my hub, and so from there I traveled other places, and I used the sleeper bus. And the sleeper buses were pretty interesting. And what is the sleeper bus? The sleeper bus is exactly what you may think of. It's a bus with beds. It's bunk beds on the bus. It's I've never seen it anywhere else beside Vietnam. Of course, the other places that I've been to, I have not used the transportation system like that. But with Vietnam, it was very interesting to be on the sleeping bus. That's one of the transportation system that is available in Vietnam, and it's really good in my opinion for long distance travels. Of course, another transportation system is, as you may know, is a regular cars that we people in the Western world would drive in. So that's another transportation systems available, or taxi is available in Vietnam as well. And the next transportation system that we are going to likely focus on is the motorbikes, otherwise known as motorcycles in other places. Okay. That's another transportation system, and I will give you every recommendation on all of those, whether you should use or you should not use that transportation system, and whether you should rent during your trip in Vietnam. And also the other transportation system, it's mostly available for those people who's trying to make money, is the tricycles. The tricycles that were used if you want to take a little bit of trips around the Old Quarter areas, and they give you a little bit of tours and things like that. This transportation system are not really available for you to rent, as far as I know. So therefore, we are not gonna focus on that. But I just want you to know, when you take your trip to Vietnam, these are what you will notice in that trip. Okay. As I mentioned, the bus is exactly as I said. It's just you sleep in there while you're traveling long distance. Now, as I have said before, so this time we're gonna talk about cars and motorbike, because in all quarters these are the most popular things transportation you will find in the old quarters, and the buses are, like I said, good for long distance, and you would not be able to use them for short little trips around the town or around the city. Okay, so therefore the most common transportation system in Hanoi or quarter Vietnam, and all really in most of Vietnam is motorbike. Okay, motorbike, I would say, take a big majority of the road of the transportation in Vietnam. According to somebody I met in Vietnam, they told me the reason why motorbike is more common than cars is it's because of high tax imposed on cars. And the person also mentioned to me, specifically said Vietnam peoples are poor and they cannot afford to buy a car, and so therefore they resolve around getting a motorbike. These are not my words. These were from people from Vietnam who specifically said that to me, because I was intrigued on how there were so many motorbikes compared to cars. It was mind blowing, okay? And I had to ask question. I had to wonder, why is it so much compared to cars? Versus where I'm from in the United States, you don't really see motorbike or motorcycles around. People use motorcycles as luxuries. When I say about luxury, you get bikers, you get sports motorcycles, but these people are riding those probably 120 cc's motorbikes. Okay, so these are the these are the transportation system that they use daily to work, to wherever they're trying to do, to schools and etc. And so everybody was riding motorbikes. Okay, and I will tell you, when I first arrived in Vietnam, Hanoi, it was quite of a headache. It was crazy to watch how much the motorcycle people were riding their motorbicycle. They overtaken the road. There was so many motorcycles. It was crazy and clustered. As you can see below, how much motorbikes overtaking cars. I will tell you, in my experience, when on the road there was not many light systems, red, green, amber lights. Okay, I noticed very few. The motorbikes, they control the road so much that they did not follow rules. At no time during my trip in Vietnam did they really follow any rules. And I say that the light will turn red. And there will be two, three cars on the road. The cars will stop, and the motorbike will just invade them. The cars in the front, in the back, left, right. They just invade that car. If that car needed to move, just because they wouldn't be able to move, because the motorbikes invaded that space and were just surrounding these cars, and so this car would not be able to move unless these motorbikes decide to move. Which of course is motorbikes. They had no patience. Well, that's one thing I noticed about motorbike people, riders. They had no patience. What I mean by that is, even though there were light signals, again, very few light signals noticed, and they also had some time where they had military personnel or law enforcement directing the traffic by stopping one way, essentially become the light signal service. They still were not following what the law enforcement personnel was telling them to do. They would just come in. What I noticed about them were they would just come in. If there was an intersection, they would look quick and they would just keep moving, no stopping. They would just do a quick look, and that's the best they would do, and they would just keep going. And everybody, doesn't matter, they would all come in all direction, from your front, from your right, from your left. They were just riding motorbike. And a couple of times while I was behind those motorbike, those taxi individuals, I felt like they almost got into an accident. However, the whole time I was in Vietnam, there were no accident, nothing. Everybody was just moving, even though it was clustered, even though it was even though it was madness. they still knew how to avoid action. Couple times where I was behind the motor taxi and they almost hit someone else, and they kind of look at each other and they just knew exactly what they were trying to do. And so then next thing you know, the one left let the other one goes, and the other one goes, and they just keep moving on, and then they just keep going fat, boom, and just keep going and going and going, and it was crazy. I'll tell you my experience with motorbike. When I was coming to Vietnam, I had planned on renting a motorbike because I know how to ride it, and I've had a little bit of experience as someone who also from Haiti, and I was gonna use that system as a way to move around the town while I was there. But because of the first day, how I noticed how they ride, I decided not this time. I will not take put my life in any sort of danger, because the moment I will step on this my foot on these pedals, I will get hit, or I will hit someone, because or I will just get crazy by doing it. So I opted out not to ride a motorbike, not to rent a motorbike in Vietnam. Okay, and I think for me that was best decision I made on my trip in Vietnam. So with that being said, I think as a whole, the trip, you using a bus is best option. Is a great option when it comes to going to Vietnam and going to places and stuff like that. Taxi cars. If you have patient, sure, go for it. Because they're not gonna be moving much. Okay, because those motorbike will overtaking these roads. Now for motorbikes, do I recommend that I should ride behind a motorbike? Not really. Not really. The whole time I was in Vietnam, I probably walked 70% of the time. I only took a motorbike when I was going on a long distance, such as when I was leaving and I need to go get my COVID test done, and I took that. But other than that, with my experience there, when I was there the first few days and I was having headache or it was clustered for me, I chose to walk most of the time. Okay, I did, and I think you should do the same. You really should do the same. The only my recommendation to is the bus is the only recommendation. I definitely discourage you from renting a motorbike in Haute Quarter, Hanoi. Do not, I repeat, do not think you're a hero or whatever you think you are. You got this. No, you don't got this. Okay, let the people in Vietnam do their thing. You go and enjoy the trip. Even though I'm not recommending you to even call a taxi, a motor taxi, but at least use that form if you want to go places. But highly discourage you from renting a motorbike. I highly discourage you from renting a car in Haute Quarter, Vietnam. If you want to have fun, if you want to enjoy your time in Vietnam, and like I said, Vietnam has a lot to offer. If you want to enjoy that time, do not, do not, do not rent a motorbike. Do not, do not, do not rent a car. Okay? Even if you were to dare doing this, so think about it. You do not speak their language. You likely don't look like them. So therefore, you wanna in a country that don't belong to you, that you're just a visitor from. If you get into an accident, guess who's at fault? You will be at fault because you have no number one. You likely do not speak their language, so that's a downfall. So when they call the cops, whatever they do, they be like, "Hey, this person did it." What you gonna say? Oh, I need an English speaker? No. And the funny thing about Vietnam was it's either I think they chose to not speak English in Vietnam. I say that because Haute Quarters is a very popular people. It's a very popular tourist area, and the whole time I was there, very few people spoke English to me. Even when I was trying to uh, get a motor taxi or go to a restaurant to eat, they were all speaking Vietnamese to me. And even though I tried to identify as an English speaker, they still opted out to not respond back in English. And so that alone, I do believe that people in Vietnam are very friendly, but that alone, either they chose not to speak English to you and know how to speak it, or they really do not know how to speak English. So again, do not rent a motorbike. And with that being said, I hope you enjoy your trip in Vietnam. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Enjoy your time in Vietnam by not renting a motorbike, a car. Okay, use your bus slippers. Okay, have a good time.